So, greed, to compromise community interests for selfish individuals. 2, punishments and sanctions. I want to tell you, if you are Ugandans and you want to continue massaging criminality and injustice, and you don't propose stern sanctions and punishments to wrongdoers, we have a long way to go.
Thank you.
Lastly,
you said 2 issues, Mr. Okay,
just lastly,
please, let's move on to the next person.
From Toma District, I'm chairperson of the Human Rights Committee of Parliament, and I'm concerned about the bulk of Karamoja being under either mine exploration or mine exploration or mining. And I am wondering, what is in it for the people of Karamoja? We can see that most of the land has been allocated to individuals. So that means that the people of Karamoja have less land now for their cows, and that they hardly have any area to grow food. So how do they benefit? The Honorable Minister has gone, but I hope the person he has left behind will answer this.
Thank you.
How do the people of Karamoja benefit from this activity?
Thank you. I have a problem if I pick people whose names I know only. So,
as the minister has gone, this is my suggestion. I think we are missing a point somewhere, and I want to see how we can refocus on how we understand land. To me, I think land should belong to the state, not to the people. The example that was given by the minister in the case of China already depicts that. There was also talking about schools not getting land titles, which I support. Now, land belonging to the state is not new. It is happening in many African countries. So what is my understanding? Land should be seen as a common pool resource. What does this mean? It should be like water. Who owns water? It should be like plants. Who owns plants? It should be like wildlife. Who owns the elephants? If we look at it from that angle, then we should be able to look at land at a different angle, and through that, we should be able to look at land as a resource. Bakuma is often called it land as an infrastructure. Land is a resource. If we call it as a resource, then we are able to know that if this pen is not writing, it's not a resource. But when it is writing, it is a resource. Thank you very much.
Maybe someone might ask who lives on water, because people live on land. So there is a Chris Obore for
arrested on corruption for giving away land to private investors. So that might be a problem if you make it a public resource.
Charles, through the KFM way, we say it direct. This document, called the land policy, in the first place, is a corporate interest document. It's not a land policy for the citizens of Uganda. It has pretenses that it protects the citizens, but it promotes corporate interests. And that is the source of the land conflicts here. When they say allocating land, it is not to you, it is to the big guns. And who are the big guns? We don't know. That's why somebody was saying 11 people. The other statement, Charles, is the truth is the land here is a problem because land is economic, land is political, land is cultural. The trouble we have here, we have political poachers on the land, and they are pretending to produce documents like this. Bakuma Isoke's office and the Minister of Lands are centers of land poaching. They don't exist for the citizens. And this conflict will continue. So they are sweet talking us with English, and the content is not there.
Thank you.
If you say the other said the land should belong to the state, clarify to us what the state is. Should the land belong to the police, the judiciary, to parliament, or to who? Citizens are the state. So don't use terms to confuse the people. If you talk about the state, are you giving land title to the judiciary? Those are organs of the state. Who in the state should own land? First of all, it should be the citizens. Don't promote corporate interests. That's our biggest problem, Charles.
Thank you, Chris. There's a lady at the corner there.
Land boards are the biggest problem in fueling land conflicts. They deliberately misrepresent and misinterpret laws to favor the elites to displace either public institutions or individuals. And the issue of corruption. So maybe I would like to know from the first presenter on what exactly do they plan to do with land boards? How do people deal with that? Because these guys even get titles for those elites.
Thank you. I am also hoping that Mr. Okumaisoke will speak to the role of the Uganda Land Commission.
My question was going to the minister who has gone, but since he has representatives, I'll still ask. The Honorable Mitchell said that land conflicts are a governance issue. Second, he says that in this land, what we have on paper in terms of legislation is wonderful. The problem is what's on the ground, namely implementation. Is the minister or anybody who represents you here suggesting that Ugandans should change the team in charge of governance? Because it seems that's what they are hinting. That if you are Mitchell, the coach of Uganda Cranes, and you discover that what you have in theory is good, but what you deliver in the field is bad, and you compelled to change the team in charge of the Cranes. That's my first question. The second, since Ogore has given me the microphone, I should clarify, in my view, that the problem is not necessarily whether the state owns the land or not. The problem is what's the nature of the elites in charge of the state. If you have the elites who are grabbers, who are part of the problem, then you have a fundamental problem on your hands. So the solution is not necessarily to say what the Constitution does, that land belongs to the people. The question is, how do we reclaim the state for national development? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Rose Makai. I have a word of caution. All the presenters seemed to show that there is a gap between law and practice. And I'm wondering, why would there be that gap between law and practice, especially if these government documents were reached at as a result of consensus? And I've somehow come to a conclusion that it looks to me that there is some sort of imitation of standard models of homogenization at the global level, which means we might not necessarily be pursuing our own agenda, but an agenda that could have been set by someone outside of this country. And therefore, it becomes too complicated to implement what we come up with, because it is not necessarily socially, politically, or economically anchored within the Ugandan realities.
Thank you, Doctor. Can we have the next gentleman? No, I'm not forgetting you, because someone else must speak before you speak.
Thank you so much. I'm Benjamin Tamuka, coordinator of the Coalition of Pastoralists for Society Organizations. The first job that any government is supposed to do is protect the lives and property of the people in its territory. In this country, only 21% of the land is titled. Now, if a country leaves the others 79% vulnerable to land grabbing, really it has failed in its work. And also, I want to break this myth. Every time we hear people saying that the people in the north and the east are poor, and the people in the south and the west are rich, I want to assure everybody here that you just go 10 kilometers off the main road in Uganda and see the amount of poverty which is there. So this systematic demarcation and titling should not go to only the north and the east, but the whole country. I thank you.
Thank you.
Has been said, and as we are all wondering what is causing the gap between the practice and the law, recently you had the president giving a very big chunk of land in Mazigo to the Chinese for investment, and you are aware that there are people who are going to be disturbed and
evicted from that land. We are wondering, because we have not seen any environmental impact assessment being carried out there. We are wondering what is happening at that level of the state and at the local level. So the ministers will have to come and explain, because as a stakeholder, as a leader in Bukoto East, I'm also touched. Recently, somebody has just talked about the 11 related to that. Recently, we have seen the lake shores of the area I represent around Bukakata, Namirembe, the lake shores being taken over by one pastor. And we are wondering how that can happen. The residents petitioned the parliament. We have not seen any results, but we are seeing things happening. And we have the ministers, we have the local leaders, everybody is keeping quiet. So I think a lot has to be given. Probably somebody who has just said that shouldn't we change guns?
Wow. When a member of parliament speaks like that, after the minister spoke like they spoke, then you have reason to welcome to the...
Mr. Chairperson, I get worried when an MP comes and laments. I thought we would be getting solutions from that level. Mr. Chairperson, there is the issue of courts. There is marginalization of the poor going on. I have two cases, I have very many cases, but I'll just give two scenarios. We have a case where an old woman has just died called Zabet Kanayo. Somebody uses money through court, the woman dies, and the son one time was arrested as a terrorist. And now the court has ordered that he pays 150 million shillings and is also supposed to leave the land. The second one is in Tororo where I worked. An old man called Wasikeo, who owned land in 1972 and has all the documentary evidence. Somebody working with the custodial board goes ahead, acquires, forges the signature of Honorable General Senator, former minister, and then they go to court, they discover there is a forged signature, but now the magistrate ordered that the thief should share the land with the rightful owner. So I think justice is being denied to the poor. And lastly, we had those certificates with the value holders. What has happened to those certificates? Thank you.
You question why the NP would speak like she has.
I have two points to make. One is to assure the chairman of the Land Commission that there is no dispute between our district and the what we have there is the Land Commission aiding the ethnic conflict. Because the Land Commission went ahead and gave 5 square miles to one investor, and in that land is being occupied by the community of Jonam, who originate from West Nile. So you are the cause of the problem. Then two, the issue of Anguro, I want to also assure the House that it is an issue of human rights, not just the land boundary. Because what is happening in Amuru, the Adjumani district gave the land to Uganda Wildlife Authority when the people were in the camp, when the people of Amuru were displaced in the camp. So when the area was declared a game reserve, the people were in the camp. So when people return on their land, they are being evicted. So it's like there was no consent from the population that land should be given to Uganda Wildlife Authority. The human rights issue comes in. If that land happens to be in Adjumani, must the Adjumani people be evicted from that land without due process of the law? That is the question, not about the boundary. So it is still government aiding ethnic conflict, which is on land.
We have the government advisor speaking for the minister.
And maybe my question to the minister, if the minister himself has found problems with the implementing policies and land laws, what is the way forward for the country?
Thank you very much. There's a lady at the back, there on the back row.
I come from the Kingdom of Toro. I'm just wondering, there's one
that hides either behind multinationals or agencies from the West or from China. And what is happening about that? Because land is being grabbed by these powerful people. They actually influence our policies. No wonder we have a land policy that, like someone says, presents to be protecting when in the actual sense we are promoting values, cultures, and heritage of another culture, and we expect to implement something foreign that will deliver on the problems that are specific to Uganda. So I think the ministry and people in the land sector need to think about this carefully. I know it's hard to bite the hands that feed you, but we need to be honest and face this. I think Dr. alluded to this as well. Where is all this coming from? And the reason it's not working is because it's not really hinged and grounded in our society, in our values. Land is not just an economic resource. It is an aspect, it's culture, it's our heritage, it's our identity. So unless that is taken into account, we will sit here, discuss, it will never end. My proposal as a solution, among the many, maybe let's call upon Uganda is a religious country. As the Muslims fast, can we intercede for this country? That the 11 land grabbers that are legislated and protected will be exposed, including those other ones that are well covered by whatever resources they have, whether it is the political tools they have or any other convention. Thank you very much.
One hour, maybe the representative of the minister, I would like him to explain, because currently we have a border dispute with Kenya, and in my constituency they have established certain even schools. So I don't know whether the ministry is knowledgeable about the problem and the land conflict between Kenya and Cameroon. Two, I think we in Uganda today are aware that there is a problem about land conflict. What is government doing? So that we could have a bigger forum where all people come in, stakeholders, to discuss and see once and for all where there are issues, then we come up with a solution. Other than now waiting every day their conflicts, try to be in the smaller areas, living other areas, to have a conflict forum that finally come up with what we think, and we agree that these are bounded internally and externally.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, I am talking, two of my issues are women. I haven't heard enough about the effects of land conflicts and land grabbing on women who suffer most, and any solution to involving the women. We need to have them informed, we need to have them as part of the social gathering, social hearings. They have to know which alternate land they're being taken to, where the money is going. What happens now is the man gets the money, they've been displaced, he actually leaves them on the land and disappears. And that is a challenge. So let's keep women as very much a part of this. We've managed to do it as far as the matrimonial home is concerned here, but we need solution when land grabbing does happen. My other area is the private sector. The intentions of the multinationals are good. They are here to create jobs. They are not land grabbers. They are here, they are not. The problem is ours. We need to sort out our problems so that investors can have access to land. There's no investment that sits in air. It has to sit on some kind of land. So Ugandan landowners are also coming back. We've been promoting agriculture to the young people like our chair here, that he should go back to his land and do some agriculture. He's not grabbing. But the solution, the problem that we have now is in the management of that problem that already exists. And let's find solutions and not so much throw land grabbing at investors. They are the solution for the jobs we are looking for, the value addition, the high value exports. Who's going to do that? It's the private sector. So one of them is the urban centers each to have an industrial area. I think that's important. So that land should be made available. And it is easier for government to regulate. If you have an investor in every bit of the country, it really is so inconvenient. But if they are together, URA can get to them, Umeme can manage them better, National Water can manage them better. So we are looking at making it easy as well for investors. So we need a solution so that land for investment is available, both for commercial agriculture,
The nuclear farm, if you go to the village, which is poor as we've all had, and you have a nuclear farm, you find it affects the others have a market, the others have jobs, the others, it really makes a difference if you look around. That's what we need to see. So let's look for solutions rather than getting rid of the investors, which is what seems to come out of here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samba Gaia. And I need you, gentlemen, to speak to the theme of this morning's discussion. Yes, this morning's discussion, which is land conflicts and evictions in Uganda, implications for achieving Vision 2040. There was a comment from James Tweheyo. James Tweheyo from the National Teachers Union. I don't know with those negotiations with government if teachers are also not grabbing land now because they seem to be having the resources coming their way. But he says Kampala Capital Authority was asking schools to hand over their land titles to them for safe custody or for purposes. Is it for safe custody or purpose of grabbing it or reallocation? The land commission chairman will answer to that. Yes. We use 2 minutes each of us.
Thank you very much, Chair. I mean, the Vision 2040, as you know it very well, it's about transformation and moving to middle income society by 20-something. 2020? And you see, the vehicle is through, if 66% of the labor is in agriculture, and agriculture, you can see the problems that are happening in the rural areas, then the land conflicts and land grabbing and evictions are a big threat to the achievement of that vision. That is for sure. And as we move toward, we should also have some policies to move people off the land, but there must be alternative sources of livelihood, which we do not have. So we are in a catch-21. There's pressure on land, there are no alternative sources of livelihood, there has to be orderly urbanization, and then effective industrialization so that there is employment, and then people can move off the land. Now, there was a big question about the gap between policy, law, and practice. For me, it's a governance issue. And the people who are complaining about these documents, for example, this national land policy, there was a forum, a delegates conference actually, a land conference. 700 Ugandans met and they had to agree on this document. So it's not about ideas from outside. It's about failing ourselves to govern ourselves and implement. I want to call upon you to read this and internalize it. It's a beautiful document, by the way, if it could be implemented. And lastly, Mr. Bamwini, it is very unfair for you to come here and tell lies about grabbing the market in Ntinda. The people who are in Ntinda are the owners. We are the owners. You were trying to assist the grabbers.
Mundu is Chief Government Valuer. There are a few questions, apart from those directed to the Minister, that you can respond to. Jova Kamateka asks, the pictures we saw from Karamoja are very disturbing. What plans are there to ensure land restoration after mining? And specifically to you as a government valuer, one of the biggest complaints is where there has been an attempt at compensation to landowners, there's been a huge debate about the valuation done by the government valuation process and the actual cost of the land in the market. And people resist moving because they think government does not want to pay adequately for their land. Could you speak to that?
Thank you very much, participants. The issue of how do the people of Karamoja benefit from all the resources and the land being taken there. There is a provision in the Mining Act that for every mining activities taking place, there is a benefit for the locals called royalty. And this royalty is emanated from the provision of having in place communal land association, which the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development is in the process of making sure the people of Karamoja participates in the communal land association vis-a-vis aspects of benefiting from the royalties. The rest of the questions,
they sounded more political, and I had bet earlier on that.
Is it being implemented? Are they getting the royalties?
The process is on, and I'm sure this is the policy issue which will be implemented. And the issue of compensation, valuation is both art and science. And the assessment is done based on very serious market research analysis and agreed methodologies. And it is true, it is not a rocket science. For instance, one can imagine that our property has been undervalued, but also there's a possibility that it could have been overvalued. But we take into mind due diligence. And on a case-to-case basis, we normally review and ensure that people get fair, adequate, and timely compensations. Thank you.
Fair, adequate, and timely compensation. Myself, I request you to speak a lot more broadly than just being chairman of the Land Commission. Can we tap into those 17 years, 10 years?
Chairman, I thank you. I start with the fundamental one raised by Madame Rose Nakai and amplified by Lady Catherine Princess Mugabu from Toro Kingdom. The fundamental is that we are implementing someone's foreign culture. I should say yes. Over 120 years ago, our territory, our homeland, our local governance system were conquered. They were hijacked by foreign superior powers with superior weaponry and propaganda. Our traditional system of governance was overtaken. Our cultural system of land ownership as communities and as trusteeships under the kings were overthrown, and a Westminster model of land ownership was instituted here. We are living with it. We have tried to sort it out in land reform decree. We failed. We tried to sort it out in CA, but rather we reinstated. We reasserted the same. When you argue that the land policy reflects the same, I agree and also disagree. There is an attempt to extricate ourselves from it, but we are caught out. The multinationals, what is World Trade Organization about? What is the Global Village about? What is foreign direct investment about? We are in a global village. We have to act smartly. We have to act smartly so that we are not conquered as a people and we don't perish as a species. This is a very serious matter, Madame Nakai and Mugabe. That debate should be taken over by other fora, Uganda-Land Alliance, the legal organizations, the governance bodies. This is a very serious matter. It's about our survival, it's about our identity, but it is also about how we exist in the global fabric. The debate continues. Another specific one was on public interest. Public interest has two facets. One is in Article 26 of the Constitution, which mentions national defense, national security, utilities, public health, infrastructure, that is public interest. But also, the environmental laws talk about the public good, which is also public interest. Common water sources, the springs, the wells, the forests, the hills, and clean air. This is public interest. It's unfortunate that the Constitution and the laws I have referred to have not expounded public interest. So, legal minds, human rights activists, this is another fertile area to expound and also to include in other land-related legislations and policies. Sir, the role of Uganda Land Commission. I cannot go beyond the Constitution, Article 239, 238, 239. We hold and manage government land. Government land is roads, schools, army barracks, police, prison farms, community development, and wherever there is presence of government,